Well, it didn't take long for Andy Enfield to fill Chris Capco's position on his coaching staff, and all he had to do was go to Lexington, Kentucky for a familiar face.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So originally, my bonus episode for today was to talk more about Pro Day, but as we all say, we make plans and God laughs. And late last night, way after I had recorded this morning's episode, we found out that Jason Hart, an assistant on Mark Pope's staff at Kentucky, is now coming to SMU to reunite with Andy Enfield, under whom he worked for at USC from 2013 to 2021. And there's a lot of interesting things going on with bringing Jason Hart back over onto Andy Enfield's staff. I'm Grayson Singleton. Welcome to this bonus edition of Locked On SMU on this Wednesday. Glad you're joining me and making us your first listen of the day. And the big takeaway from this acquisition is, to me, very simple. It's a problem to fix, or it's a solution, excuse me. It's a solution to an immediate problem. And I wouldn't call this hire short-sighted, but I will call it trying to fix an immediate present problem right now. And the immediate present problem right now is that Andy Enfield has got to get this program moving in a great direction. Otherwise, he could lose his job after next year, because there are people that aren't satisfied with the 220-win seasons. They're not satisfied with making the first four and then being defeated by Miami of Ohio. So even though the first two seasons have been fine for Andy Enfield, it's not really flying. It's not really flying right now. So he's got to fix this thing and turn it around fast. And I don't mind bringing in a familiar face. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it does help to fix a couple of problems. And one thing that stands out about Jason Hart is that he spent 2 seasons on Mark Pope's staff in Kentucky. Now, obviously, those are the only 2 seasons that Mark Pope has been there, succeeding the great John Calipari. But if you look at him as a recruiter, this plays well for SMU. Now, a lot of you are saying, well, wait, Kentucky didn't sign anybody out of high school in the 2026 class. They've been pretty disappointed with their high school recruiting ever since Mark Pope got there. You would be correct. That's not the type of recruiting I'm talking about. Because SMU's immediate problems are not all going to be fixed from high school recruiting. And sure, they have signed some good players out of high school, Jaden Toombs being one of them who really came on at the end of this past season. Cam Lomax is on his way, going to be a true freshman next year. Billy White is a guy that they got to reclassify from the Houston area. So SMU has done a decent job recruiting high school. But to fix their immediate problems and really get where we all want SMU to go, the Mustangs need to get established guys. And that's where I think Jason Hart can come in. Now, the one caveat to that would be the fact that he's recruiting with the Kentucky brand. And that might be true. But look at what the Wildcats did in the 2 seasons that Jason Hart was under Mark Pope in Lexington. This past year's transfer portal class included Mohamed Diabate, who was a real contributor for Kentucky this year. Denzel Aberdeen, who was a very real contributor for Kentucky, probably their second best player behind, Otega Owe. And Otega Owe was a guy that they got to transfer from Oklahoma. So you look at all of the guys that you've been seeing for Kentucky, 2025 transfer portal class, Mohamed Diabate, Denzel Aberdeen. 2024 transfer portal class for the Wildcats, Lamont Butler, Andrew Carr, Kobe Brea, who's now with the Phoenix Suns. Amari Williams was a good player for them. Jackson Robinson was a good player for them. Brandon Garrison continues to be a good player for them. And then obviously Otega Owe, who's one of the more clutch big shot makers in all of college basketball. So can you do the same thing necessarily at SMU that you could do with the Kentucky brand? Maybe not. But if SMU is going to fix its most immediate problems, that will have to be done through the transfer portal. And if you combine that with the fact that the Mustangs have just been showered with resources, and already had resources and money at their disposal before the $50 million gift that they were gifted about a month ago or so. If you can get another voice who is well connected as part of your coaching staff to entice more players into your program, along with the fact that you'll be able to compensate them handsomely, now you've got something. Now you've got something. I'm not going to overreact here and say that I'm over the moon about Jason Hart's arrival, because I don't think that's warranted necessarily. But the problem with SMU basketball at this particular moment in time is the fact that they need more veteran dudes and they need shot makers. They need scorers, bona fide scorers who have been around if they really want to get where they want to go. So you may not be able to bring in a bunch of Otega Owes and Denzel Aberdeens and Andrew Carrs and Kobe Bryas, but you could be able to pluck from the mid majors like Kobe Bryant was. He was a transfer from Dayton, but you should be able to go to the mid majors and say, okay, I identify you. You can score. You can help us. You can be a veteran big. Bring you back in. With SMU's resources, they should be able to put together a team like that. And I think that's where Jason Hart is going to really help, because it showed at Kentucky. Can he recruit the high school ranks? Yes. He has a very good West Coast connection from his time out there. So I do think he will be a help there. But in terms of the immediate right now, which is what SMU should be focused on, because Andy Enfield right now has to buy himself more time. That's problem number one. So if his addition, Jason Hart's that is, can help buy Andy Enfield more time, then that is a win in my book. It's a good hire. I don't know if it's a home run hire, but it's a good one. These two have worked together, and they had some pretty good years together at USC. How do I know this? Well, we'll talk about it next. Is familiarity really the good thing, and just getting a guy that you know a really good thing? For this particular instance, I think it is, and I'll tell you why.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. All four number one seeds, UConn, UCLA, Texas, and South Carolina, have completely dominated the opening rounds of the NCAA tournament. UConn rolled with a 98-45 victory over Syracuse behind AZ Fudd, who had a 34-point explosion, while South Carolina has been led by Joyce Edwards coming off a 23-point game. UCLA leaned on Lauren Betts with a 35-point performance in an 87-68 win over Oklahoma State. And Texas advanced comfortably with a 40-point show from Madison Booker. And now we're headed to the Sweet 16. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
The tournament is here, one of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets, it's nonstop action from the tip to the final cut down. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Here's the best part. You can get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament, and you can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, or even same game parlays. You can do it all, and even combine it for a potential bigger payout. It's the perfect time for the tournament because every day there's something new. Different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood Prediction Markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. And now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play-by-play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, back here on this rapid reaction as we've got a new assistant coach joining Andy Enfield staff. Jason Hart is now on the Mustang basketball program, and a lot of people are going to dig into this and read articles and write-ups on Jason Hart and see, oh, Andy Enfield just hired a dude he's familiar with. Not quite. And yes, these two worked together from USC from 2013 to 2021. So they do have familiarity with each other. They have worked together. Jason Hart also, by the way, was a coach at G League Ignite, coached there until the program was disbanded, and then he has now been on Mark Pope's staff at Kentucky. But is familiarity necessarily a bad thing here? And sometimes familiarity can be a bad thing. But I think whenever we get this question I always stop myself from saying, oh, he hired a buddy or he hired a friend, this, that, and the other, because it's situational. That sort of thing is very circumstantial for every single situation we're in, right? In this situation, I think it's good because however you want to slice it, Andy Enfield led USC to one of its more golden eras of basketball. That cannot be disputed. So Andy Enfield, during his time at USC, a lot of it with Jason Hart, compiled 6 20-win seasons. That is the most 20-win seasons all time in USC's program history. Now, during Andy Enfield's time, they also got to the NCAA tournament 5 times. We know this. But here's what I want to focus on. SMU basketball last year scored 78.6 points per game and gave up 77.9. That's a average point differential of plus 0.7. If you were confused about SMU's season this year, that should iron that out. That you had a point differential of plus 0.7. Okay, so actually, I take that back. That was what USC was this year. Pardon me. I'll get back to SMU with that in just a second. But the point is still going to stand that if you look at the Mustangs, and we can look up that number in a second. So my mistake on that one. We'll look that number up in a second. But I do not expect that point differential to be very high for the Mustangs. Now, if you look at the pairing of Andy Enfield and Jason Hart during their time at USC, get this. The first year they went to the tournament, the average point differential was about 6 in terms of points scored versus points allowed. On average, they scored 6 more points than they gave up. The second year they made the tournament, it was a plus 5. The next time they made a tournament, it was almost 10. It was a couple tenths of a point off per game in terms, before being 10 point per game average differential. That is huge. The fourth time Andy Enfield made the NCAA tournament was his first year without Jason Hart. They had a point differential of plus 6. And then the next year they had the final year that Andy Enfield made the NCAA tournament at USC. They had a point differential, an average point differential of plus 6 again. So that is one thing SMU has got to figure out. They have got to figure out how to be better, more so better, scoring-wise, than what they give up. Now, what was it this year? Surprisingly, and this is also because of how great the offense was, surprisingly, this was above an average of 6 points per game. Now, however, they gave up 78 points per game, which if you look at them giving up 78 points per game, and sure, they're playing better competition a little bit than what USC was playing, because remember, that was still the Pac-12, and they still had some solid teams in some of those years. They did not give up 77 points a game at USC one time during Andy Enfield and Jason Hart's combination there at that school. So it's a little bit of a different argument, but the point still stands, is that Andy Enfield's best years have been with Jason Hart right next to him. So, yes, familiarity is not always a great thing. No, not always hiring somebody that you know you have on speed dial is not always the best thing. But in this case, I think it is. Because for whatever reason, SMU ended up being so terrible defensively, that never happened at USC. They had a comfortable point differential, and they were not reliant upon having some bonkers offense. The fact that if you wanted to bring SMU to a reasonably good offense, even a great offense, they would be scoring right around 80 points a game, maybe even 79 points per game. That would have you, with how bad their defense was, at a average point differential of around 2 to 3. But even without an otherworldly offense, the combination of Enfield and Hart had a point differential of 6 and 7, sometimes up to 10. So when I look at it from that perspective, and I see that they've got to get better defensively, I look at that and say, okay, I'm here for this. Jason Hart was a defensive player when he was playing, so that's certainly going to help as well. And if you look at the statement in terms of what he likes to recruit when he's been at Kentucky, wherever he's gone, he said this. He told the Daily Trojan this in 2021. The kids we recruit, we try to find somewhat of a gym rat type player, somebody who's dedicated and who does have dreams and aspiration to get into the NBA. We also try to find student athletes who care about their academics as much as basketball. They do well here. But when you tell me you're trying to get gym rat type of dudes, you usually don't associate gym rat type of dudes with they don't play defense. You can get hoopers that don't play defense. He could have said, we want to get guys that can put the ball in the bucket. Well, that leaves open the possibility that they don't play defense. But you don't usually associate gym rat type of dudes with liabilities defensively. So when I piece all of this together, I kind of like where this is going. I like where it's going. Again, not trying to get overly excited, not trying to say that SMU is going to go to the Sweet 16 because they brought in Jason Hart, but I think it's a step in the right direction. I do want to reiterate that. I think it is a step in the right direction, and I think there is positivity here. Now, in tomorrow's episode, we'll talk a little Dink Pate and his situation. I intentionally left him out of this episode for that reason, but we can talk more about that in Thursday's full-on episode. But I think for now, I do think that this is going to be a pretty good hire for SMU and for Andy Enfield. Not to mention, go back to the good old days where we were going to the NCAA tournament and he was the one in Andy Enfield's ear. I think that also has some positivity factor to that. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to the video. We'll talk to you guys on Thursday morning. Take it easy, everybody.